Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights, and from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is going on, Steeler Nation? The Unofficial Steelers Podcast Nation. Good to see my guy Daniel back on the show. Good to be back on the show. It's been a hot minute since we've been able to come back on here and have some good Steeler discussion. Good to see you, Jennifer, Jared Devil. Mark, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Doing well out there on the other end. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in and saying hello. I don't even know what episode this is. I've kind of lost track. But this is going to be, I think, a pretty good episode. We have a lot of things to really kind of catch up on, Daniel. And first and foremost, you got back from Pittsburgh. And you were at the Baltimore Ravens and Steelers game this Sunday. Would you like to talk about, well, actually before that, since the last time that we've met, I think the last time we did a show was the Giants Monday night game.
Right.
So from there up to here, how have you been? How are you feeling with everything? Anything new going on with your channel? Anything like that? What's been going on? Malvo, what's up, bro?
What's up? Yeah. No, I actually haven't been on either, man. I've been super busy with work and my other podcast that I have, the Drunk Turkey Show. If anybody is interested in some true crime or some weird things and conspiracies, go check it out. But for the most part, I went to, we'll kind of jump back to the Washington game. So we didn't talk about that one yet. I thought that the offense and the Pittsburgh Steelers were humming in that game. I felt like the points on that game weren't relative to what they should have been. I felt that the Steelers offense was getting going, and then they just kind of got in their own way a couple of times. They had the fake punt that went wrong, but I thought it was a great. I thought it was a great. I don't know if you've seen my thumbnail, but
I just looked at it now because Jared Devil said something. It's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, well, anyways, I thought the Steelers played well against the Washington Commanders. And then, I went to Pittsburgh. I got to go see the Steelers play live against the Ravens, my first Ravens-Steelers game. Me and my pops went out there. Undefeated when me and my dad go out there to watch the game. So, yeah, if the Steelers make the playoffs and have a home game, I'll be going one of those. So
hell yeah, dude.
we're going to have to throw in the good juju there.
Give me a Rich ticket.
There you go. And so it was a great time, man. The weather was beautiful. It wasn't hot, wasn't cold. It was perfect.
Not as cold as last year, huh?
No, not really. And
last year was around the same time we went.
Yeah, but this year is just really warm compared to last year.
Yeah, we've had a warm fall, and as of right now, and it's definitely not as cold as how things were last year. But I'm glad that you and your dad had a good time. You guys are able to see another win. So you guys got back home.
But I want to say something first.
Yeah.
Dude, Derrick Henry is a huge dude. Like the guy walked by in front of us. He looked almost the size, width of the lineman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But TJ Watt put him on his ass. That was
he did. Time. Yeah, he did. So you got there Saturday, right?
Yeah, I got there Saturday. Yes, sir.
Got there Saturday, Sunday, you left Monday then.
Try to leave Monday. We had some plane issues. Actually didn't get back till today.
You had a flight cancellation.
No, I missed my flight.
Oh, you missed your flight? How'd you miss your flight?
I looked at the wrong ticket. We were flying from Pittsburgh to New York, and I looked at the New York time, and I was like, I don't got to be to the airport till 10. And I showed up at 8, and sure enough, that's when my other flight left. And so everybody was cool about it. They just changed it to the next day. It ended up working out in my best interest because me and my dad went down to the Strip at that point, went to go eat breakfast at Pamela's, and Russell Wilson and Sierra were there. They showed up, and then Peyton Wilson was outside as well. And so that was really cool. I mean, that right there kind of made the made it worth to stay the extra day. Yeah, we drove around, got some Christmas gifts while we were down there in Pittsburgh, because down here in Texas, there's not as much merchandise, and so
yeah. So you try to take advantage of it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a good time, man. Real good time.
Yeah,
Ate at a place called The Yard. Man, those burgers were amazing. I don't know if you know where that's at or
I feel like I've heard of The Yard.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But
Yeah.
The game itself, man, like I felt like the offense was doing what they were supposed to do up until they got into the red zone. This kind of felt like I wasn't impressed with what they were trying to do. I felt like they ran it a little bit more in the red zone. I thought they were a little bit more effective. I also thought maybe perhaps they should have used Justin Fields in one of those red zone attempts. I thought when they used him on the ground, he was effective. When they had the package out there, and I think we're going to see more of Justin Fields in the future. But overall, I mean, I thought Russ played okay. I think he took a couple sacks that maybe he didn't need to. He had an awful interception that he shouldn't have thrown. But overall, I thought he played well. He had a beautiful pass to George Pickens down the side, right towards where he was running, right towards us, me and my dad. And yeah, I think that the Ravens fans right now are complaining, and a lot of like news media too is complaining that Justin Tucker he missed 2 field goals and the Ravens beat themselves. They had all these flags. The Steelers had a bunch of flags too. Broderick Jones nearly cost several drives. Russell Wilson was able to eliminate those flags thrown on Broderick Jones where Lamar Jackson wasn't able to do the same. And I think that speaks volumes on the quarterback situation.
But
well,
I'm glad you had a good time. You're able to see everything up close. And you and your dad enjoyed yourselves. You got to see a win, even though and that's the thing. When it comes to Steelers and Ravens things, you got to throw the stats out the window, dude. It doesn't matter who plays. I always take those games as a game where the most important thing, obviously always the most important thing is winning. But when people tend to break down things that happen during games, whatever team that they're a fan of, anything like that, you'll break down certain stats. You'll break down certain things people did. When it comes to these games, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When Ben was playing, these were 3-point games. The stats go out the window. It doesn't matter. You could have had freaking whoever the hell their backup quarterback is playing. It still probably would have been a 3-point game. It doesn't matter. That's the way the Steelers and Ravens games go. It's a division game. So people need to relax a little bit with certain things and clamoring and crying that they didn't throw a touchdown or anything like that. Who freaking cares? You beat the Ravens, leading the AFC North. That's the way that those games go. But one thing I wanted to ask you was I thought the Ravens played a really good defensive ball game. And as you were there in person, and you can get a much more clearer view of kind of what the field looks like rather than what you can get on TV. Were they really clamping down our Steelers wide receivers pretty heavily?
Yeah, there wasn't very many that were open.
Yeah, because you have a lot of people complaining, Russell Wilson isn't seeing the field or this or that. And it's like, dude, you realize,
no, I don't think so.
You realize that it's okay to admit that a team's secondary is just playing really, really sound defense.
I don't know if they were playing that sound of a defense as much as they were playing a different type of defense. Kyle Hamilton was way back a lot compared to what he'd been in previous games. He'd been the guy up in the box. And so I think that probably put a fork into the way that, what plays that they had prepared to run, expecting him to be in the box and things of that nature. That may have made him a little bit more predictable in certain instances. I think I even saw a play where all the receivers kind of ended up in the same spot, and I don't think that's normal. And so it sounded like they had some miscues. I thought that the personnel was questionable. Van Jefferson got quite a bit of snaps, especially over Mike Williams and even Calvin Austin. But yeah, I think that, they're still growing. This is Russ's 4th game. I think he's going to get better. I understand. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have thrown that ball to Washington in the end zone. Even Mike Tomlin said in his press conference, "I just wish he didn't throw it." And you gotta. Sometimes you win by those, sometimes you die by those. And fortunately, in this situation, Peyton Wilson comes up with a big interception over the top, and that was awesome. Like he caught it right in front of me. It was coming down this direction towards us. And when he caught it and I saw it, I was like, dude, that was a great play. The defense was outstanding. I mean, at every turn. I mean, they started off right, forcing a fumble on Derrick Henry by Herbig. It was welcome back party. Tremendous game from the defense.
Yeah, start the game off. Pretty crazy. Henry hasn't fumbled in 3 years.
Yeah. And dude, that hit that that TJ Watt had on him, that was awesome. They were going away from us at that point, so I saw it clear because I didn't have to see it through the linemen. I saw the backfield of the Ravens and the Ravens backfield. So when TJ Watt is fast, man, he comes around that corner and he just busted him up. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I remember we're about to go to halftime. And I was like, I told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to the restroom before everybody gets up there and gets real busy. And so I'm walking up the stairs, and then I stopped just to see the next play or whatever. And sure enough, that's when the I think it was Patrick Queen forced the fumble on Isaiah Likely, and boom, I went back down to my seat.
Yeah, you want to talk about somebody that had a game? He had the best game of the season for his Steeler career. He had his best game of the year.
I agree.
That is the type of Patrick Queen that the Steelers signed, and I think that he's played some strong football the last few games in itself, but he was amped up for that game. It was great to see just how much an effective player he can really be for this team inside the middle. So that was really exciting to see him play as good as he did.
Hey, so how many points did you think that the boys going to be the combined score? The over under was like 48 points.
Yeah, I definitely was taking under 100%. I think because my friend Zach Z, as you guys have seen him in the chat before, he's a Ravens fan, and he actually predicted the Steelers to win this game. I did too, but I thought it was going to be a 2-3 point game. I said like 22-20, but I wasn't surprised that it went 18-16 at all.
Yeah,
I really didn't think that our offense was going to really score much, maybe one touchdown. I kind of thought the Ravens offense would as well, maybe score 1 to 2 touchdowns. And that's really primarily what happened, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Mike Tomlin has the tendency of, if the defense is going out there and making splash plays, and that the only way that the Steelers are going to lose is if they beat themselves with a costly pick, like what almost happened with Russ, that he's going to go down conservative.
Yeah.
And it just kind of felt like that too, it was kind of somewhat conservative.
And in certain game situations or the way games are going, it's okay to be that way. Now, I think a lot of more people would have been upset, like if this wasn't a divisional game and one of those things of them underperforming to somebody. But this is a different team to me. And this is a Steeler team that I feel like that they haven't had since 2017. I feel like that this is the most disciplined and structured Steeler team that we've seen since then.
That's crazy you say that after earlier this season with George Pickens and some of the antics he was doing. But I think we've really seen a turn in his attitude too, with this culture changing to one.
Dude, it's funny. George Pickens is like posting stories on Instagram of like Russ and his kids.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, no, dude. Like he's having a great time. He's happy. He's enjoying being able to be in a much better situation offensively than what he's been in the last 2 years.
I agree.
So, and you can see that. And even when George wasn't, obviously as a professional, and this being such a team game the way it is, there's no excuse to be prima donna. but that's the way that a lot of these NFL wide receivers are. Some of these NFL players, they want the ball, they want their numbers as well. But he is starting to transcend, I think, into a top 10-esque wide receiver. He's, I think, third in the NFL in receiving yards.
Yeah.
He's right behind Justin Jefferson, who's number 2.
And that's crazy because the Steelers didn't throw the ball much with Justin Fields, and he wasn't getting a lot of those targets down the field like that.
No.
And so that's impressive what he's been able to do, and not to mention how many touchdowns were brought back,
right,
that he could have had.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 this season.
Exactly. So I mean, there's been a few, and even the one this past weekend where maybe perhaps it wouldn't have been a touchdown, but it should have been a pass interference, where they basically threw him to the ground in the end zone where he didn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
I thought that was baloney. I couldn't understand why they didn't catch it. That was in the opposite end zone of where I was at, and I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from over 100 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
It was that blatantly obvious. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So this team to me feels different. This team to me feels like the most legit team they've had since 2017. Really, the last 4 or 5 years, the Steelers have been in a place where like they're good enough to hang around, but they're not like that serious type team. They're mid or maybe a little bit above average. You know, you can give them a little bit of respect, but they're not going to make much damage. This team actually leads the NFL with 5 wins over teams with a 500 record.
Wow.
Yeah, that leads the NFL. They have 5 wins this season against teams with an over 500 record.
Yeah, everybody still hasn't seen enough. Like that's the one thing that bothers me, like more than anything, is that you'll have like Chris Sims is kind of coming over, but I've been listening to like Cam Newton and like some of the other guys, not Shay. Well, he has the Shay Club or whatever his name is, Shannon Sharp. Some of them, those guys, they're just not convinced yet that the Steelers are there, even though they're beating the top teams in the league. I mean, they beat the Chargers, which is a team that's coming up. Yeah, granted, Herbert wasn't playing the full game, but it didn't matter.
Still had a great defense.
Exactly.
They have a top 3 defense in the NFL. Now, I think that some of that narrative might just be because the track record lately, the 500 seasons, the 9-8, the 10-7s, the losing in the wild card round. I think it really might be based off the track record. But I don't think that should be the case this season. I think that people, and there's people like there's definitely national media heads out there that are coming out saying that the Steelers are legit. The Steelers are a threat to the Bills, to the Chiefs, things like that. Of course, everybody's different. They're going to have mixed thoughts, mixed opinions. But I've seen more discussion in the legitimacy factor of the Steelers being legit than not, even from just regular fans. Now, with that being said, it still shouldn't, the people that are kind of not quite warming up to it yet need to stop looking in the past. You need to stop looking in the past that like this isn't the team that had the Pickett's and the Rudolphs and the Trubiskys in the last year of Ben. That's not it. This is a different team. This is a team that has more structure offensively, that has better coaching than those teams. This is a team that has had really their best offense they've had in 4 or 5 years. This is a team that I think defensively, in my opinion, I think they're the best defense in the NFL. I would take them over anybody. But I think that this is their best defensive squad that they've had since 2020. So people need to stop looking at that narrative. And I really think that's the main reason, dude. I really think it's the main reason of really just the track record and not winning a playoff game since 16, losing the wild card rounds. I think that's the narrative. But with that being said, I do think that, and I feel good saying it, especially after the wins against Washington and Baltimore, I think this team definitely is a threat to Buffalo, to Kansas City, to the AFC as a whole. I think this is a team that definitely can reach an AFC championship. Now, the Super Bowl would be incredible, but I really do think this is a team that can make a deep run in the playoffs. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think for one, they're in what is the phrase? They hold their own destiny at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, if they win out, they'd be the first seed. Because even if Buffalo wins out as well, they'll end up tied, but Buffalo lost to 2 AFC teams. Steelers lost to an AFC and NFC team. So tiebreaker goes to Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
And they would obviously have, if they won out, if the Chiefs only lost to the Steelers, then you have the head-to-head matchup.
Yeah.
But so they control their own destiny, and I think that even though they won last week, because this upcoming game against the Cleveland Browns, some say that is it a trap game. Steelers played two difficult teams in the last couple of weeks. Going into Cleveland on a short week, is it a trap game? I think the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't put any TDs on the scoreboard is going to lead them to be very determined to rectify that and put some points on the board. And they're going to go up against a pretty good defense. Myles Garrett on the outside there, him versus Dan Moore, that's worked in the past for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if he goes over to Broderick Jones' side for any period of time, I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah, 100%.
But, even up the middle. I mean, there's been some times, not with Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier has been excellent, but there's been times where even Isaac Seumalo kind of let some pressure come up the middle in the last couple of games, and McCormick during the passing game. Running game, fantastic. Passing game, they got some improvements to make. Because more so than the penalties in the last game from Broderick Jones, there was quite a few sacks on Russell Wilson. Not all of them were deserved. Some of them he kind of held on to the ball a little too long. But he's been racking them up. I think last week he had 4. The week before that he had 3. It's getting high.
Yeah, it's unfortunately been a poor season for him, and I don't think it's all his fault.
Yeah,
I
in
don't
the sack
like
division. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's been a poor season. Like he had I think pretty, in my opinion, and especially from what I saw, like a pretty good two to three stretches of games before this Ravens game. I do think that he is going to be the left tackle next year. There's no reason to give up on him. The kid's how old is he? 22, 23 years old.
He's younger than Frazier and McCormick.
Yeah. So you traded up for him. Last year he wasn't starting until the end of the season. This year he was bothered by an injury earlier. I don't really think that it has best suited him in terms of kind of flip-flopping around a little bit at different times, especially in the offseason. But I still believe in him. I definitely think that he definitely can accelerate his development. I don't know if that's going to mean that if the Steelers are going to also look elsewhere in terms of coaching with that aspect. But when it comes to the Ravens game again, I want to ask you, were you disappointed that they didn't really implement Mike Williams much?
Yeah. That was one of my biggest pet peeves, or my biggest points earlier, was that the personnel and the targets. I thought that Russ would have at least given one shot to jump up and get a contested ball. The guy is tall. The guy's tall and he's fast. He is much bigger than George Pickens, and George Pickens is a tall wide receiver as well. You have a double threat there. The other question I have is, where's Pat Freiermuth? Why aren't the Steelers utilizing his skills as a pass catcher? Now, don't get me wrong. I love what they've been doing with Washington. I almost called him George Washington. I love what they've been doing.
Might as well.
Yeah. And I think he's a big man. If he's catching the ball in the secondary, there's not going to be very many defensive backs that are going to be able to take him down without going to his legs. That's obviously everywhere he's going. That's why they're going down at him. Well, anyways, I like to see more Muth. I like to see more Williams. Van Jefferson.
I've had enough of Van Jefferson, dude. I really have.
He hasn't really played bad, from what I've seen and when I was out there, but it's nothing that jumps off the table.
No, he shouldn't be getting wide receiver 2 snaps. I'm sorry.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree.
Mark, take care, man. Thanks for being in. Hopefully we can all talk soon, man. Hope you're doing well. Mike Williams needs to be having wide receiver 2 snaps. He's had a pretty strong career with the Chargers all around, had some injury problems, but you saw his immediate impact at the end of the Washington game, and then you come back around in this game and you give him zero opportunity. I just don't understand it. Tom, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in. I just don't understand it. I was definitely disappointed. That was probably definitely one of the biggest things, takeaways from the game in terms of a disappointing aspect of just not giving Mike Williams opportunity.
Well, that wasn't supposed to be Mike Williams' opportunity. The only reason he was in that play was because Calvin Austin was in the concussion protocol, which he passed. He didn't have a concussion, but they pulled him. They were checking him out, and they put in Mike Williams. He hadn't run that play, according to him and Russ. They hadn't practiced it at all, and so personally, I don't know if Calvin Austin catches that ball. I'll be honest.
The guy's 5'5". Let's be honest.
I mean, he would have got the separation, but the ability to track the ball over this way on the opposite side. I mean, that takes a lot of skill. I'm not saying that Calvin Austin doesn't have that skill. I don't think he has like the best hands in tough situations.
Well, yeah. So even if that, okay. So that's the case. Mike Williams, it wasn't supposed to be him on that play, but it was him on that play. He makes that play, even though it wasn't ran before. So why would you not go back to him in this game and give him increased reps?
No, I agree with you. That was one of my issues about the personnel and what they used.
Traded for the guy. He's your second best wide receiver.
I would agree to that.
100%. He's not a scrub or anything. He just didn't work out with the Jets.
That's true.
If take away his time with the Jets, if he didn't play for the Jets this year, okay, and he was with the Chargers, I think that certain fans would. I think there would have been even more excitement of trading for him.
I agree. I think what has happened in New York,
the Jets are a dumpster fire, dude. They fired their coach. They fired their GM now. Devontae Adams isn't doing anything. Garrett Wilson's not doing a whole lot. I mean, like he's top 10 in yards, but still, like their offense is horrific.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The Jets is. I bet you Devontae Adams wishes he'd take back that trade.
Hey, dude, you know what? That's what happens when you just want to. I don't know. I don't want to say he doesn't have a desire to win, but that's what happens when you just kind of value more so of just playing with your buddies. That's the way it goes, man. Happens in the NBA. That's the way it goes. So
well, he's been following his buddies too far. He started off with Carr. He goes to the Raiders because of Carr. He gets shipped out, and Carr's not really that great. I mean,
that was a dumpster fire in the Raiders for him.
Yeah, and so now he goes to the Jets at his age. I mean, I know he's going to be a free agent this spring, but I don't know. I'm sure a team will pay out for him.
Yeah. Yes.
But if he stays with the Jets, he's a fool.
Yeah. No, he definitely is. Somebody will. But yeah, the Ravens game, obviously winning that, and we'll move on from it. Obviously winning that Ravens game was huge for the Steelers. Typical Steelers-Ravens game. It felt a little different for me, where I just feel like the Steelers and Ravens games haven't really been too exciting or a big, just really those big Steelers-Ravens games that we know from the past. They haven't been there the last 3-4 years. And this one felt like that. This one felt like Steelers Ravens of before a little bit. I personally don't feel like Steelers Ravens for the I don't know. It could revamp itself. The rivalry has just kind of felt flat the last 4 or 5 years. It has.
Oh man, but they were chippy. Like they were getting mad at each other. There was some.
Yeah. Marlon Humphrey and Roger Jones, they couldn't let anything go. But I'm saying from a consumer and fan aspect, the Steelers and Ravens games the last 4 or 5 years haven't really been these big games. They haven't really been that rivalry, hard-nosed, sweat it out type games. Like they're close games, but they're not the exciting Steelers Ravens weeks that we're known to have. This one felt different. This one felt a little bit of a glance back into time. That this was a big game. This felt like a big game. It felt a little bit of the rivalry kind of being revived a little bit. I just haven't gotten the rival aspects the last 4 or 5 years for me. They have felt like more normal games for me.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think they've changed. I mean, there's Najee taking away the Ravens flag or the towel from the fan. You know, I think what has more to do with it is the fact that, let's be real, the Steelers haven't kept their own to being a threat in the NFC and the AFC North to win it in the last couple of years. You know, they made the playoffs, but they weren't in position to win the division. And so that urgency of the game being all right. On the Steelers end, the last couple of years, it's been on the urgency's been on the Steelers side only. I mean, last year when they played the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson didn't play because they didn't need to play him.
No.
And so, you look at where the players, the teams are in those specific moments. And I think maybe that has to do with maybe some of what you're saying. However, I think it's more of a perspective of the games not meaning as much as they have to both parties as they have
fair.
in the past. But this year, this was for first place, and it felt reignited to me.
It definitely felt like it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I have a podcast on Steel Curtain Network. It's in the audio only, so you have to go to steelcurtainnetwork.com to hear it, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just search up State of the Steelers and you'll hear mine. My title of that podcast was Throwing Fuel to the Fire, because it wasn't really so much, in my opinion, a reignition, but throwing fuel into that fire and getting this flame burning up, because I really think that this is going to be especially if Russ is going to be here for a couple of years, this could end up being a pretty good matchup for the next 2-3 years between the Steelers and
I agree.
The Ravens.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I can see this getting just like it was, and I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I've missed that, truly.
Yeah, and man, just this game here. I mean, it was perfect to me. I know they didn't put any points on the board, but to me, or TDs on the board.
Stats mean nothing to me when it comes to those games.
Exactly. It was for first place.
Yeah.
All alone.
Ravens have had the best offense in the NFL this year. Lamar is arguably going to win another MVP, and they end up scoring 16 points against the Steelers defense. And again, the Steelers have his number. He's a whole. It's like he's just like a whole different player when he plays the Steelers. Everybody else, he's Lamar Jackson, but against Steelers, he's not. So, and beating them 8 out of the last 9 matchups is fantastic in itself. So, but yeah, just great that they won. Huge. Let's move on to Thursday Night Football. Do you have any concern about this game?
Just the fact that it's so close and the Steelers have to travel. I think they're going to practice. I think they're leaving tomorrow, to Cleveland. And I think what they're going to end up probably doing is doing a practice today, tomorrow. And then from the practice tomorrow, head over to Cleveland, do a walkthrough Thursday morning to try to get as much possible preparation time. Outside of that, I mean, that's going to be my biggest concern. On the road on a short week, Thursday nights have typically been in favor of the home team.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only part that worries me. I'm not worried about Jameis Winston. I know some people are asking, is he going to be is this going to be a trap game? Is he going to be
what version are you going to get?
Right, exactly. Which I think that I think he's only played well like in a handful of quarters.
He threw for a lot of yards against the Saints, but they only scored 14 points.
Yeah.
So he's somebody that's going to give you a lot of yards and a lot of interceptions. He might give you a handful of touchdowns. In previous years, Daniel, I would say I would be a little nervous for this game. Now the Steelers, from what I believe, I think they've only won once in Cleveland since 2021. I stand to be corrected on that, but I think they've only won one time in Cleveland, and that was Ben's last game against Cleveland, in Cleveland. I stand to be correct on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. They have not won in Cleveland since then, 2022 and last year.
Yeah, well, let's change that.
Yeah.
I think this team can. I mean, the teams for the last couple of years weren't that great. I mean, what was it? Last year was after the Browns game in Cleveland, they were threatening to bench Kenny Pickett, and they ended up firing Matt Canada. And then
it was a horrific game last year in Cleveland. It was horrific.
It was
terrific to watch. It was awful.
And against DTR, it was embarrassing to say the least. And that's what ended up causing the firing of Matt Canada, and there was the rumors that Kenny Pickett was going to get benched. He ended up getting hurt in the next game and never saw the field again for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Thank
Which
God.
is wild. Yeah. I mean, I was pulling for it. I'm not gonna say I wasn't, but I wasn't expecting it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to get another option at quarterback. Not necessarily saying that they were going to trade him away. I was just hoping they would get another option at quarterback.
Right.
But it ended up working out for the best because let's be real. I mean, if Russ hurt his calf in the beginning of the season, how many of those games are we winning with Kenny Pickett?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to win very many. And I think
I agree.
I think Justin Fields, had that extra oomph to get the Steelers there. He was at least as good, if not better. I think better when it comes to his legs, obviously, which may have pushed him over the edge of what Mason Rudolph was able to do last year. I think Mason maybe threw the ball a little bit more accurately down the field, but Justin Fields was able to move the team down the field with his legs.
Yeah. Steeler Girl, thanks for coming in. Enjoy your night. Good to see you. Thanks for supporting. We appreciate it. Yeah, they lost. Last year, obviously that one, and they lost 29-17 in 2022 with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
the Steelers lost to a lot. They're going to lose to I think most teams with Mitch Trubisky. As a quarterback.
So, and that's my point in terms of why I'm not concerned about this game, honestly. Now, all things considered, I'm going to give respect. It is a division game. I am going to give respect that Cleveland has beat the Steelers the last 2 years, even though given the Steelers' quarterback situation. So I still am. Cleveland still has talent defensively. 100% they do. They're having a horrific season. Who knows what's going to happen with their head coach? He could get fired after this game. Actually, there's a list of Cleveland Brown coaches that have gotten fired after they have lost the Steelers. I don't know if you saw that.
That's true.
There is a handful of them that have lost. So Kevin Stefanski might go on that list, possibly. But I understand that there's some people in terms of the trap game, just given the fact you're going to Cleveland, you haven't won there the last 2 years, given the fact that Stefanski's kind of playing for his job, maybe the fact that the Steelers are coming off a really hard kind of emotional win against the Ravens and it's a short week. I get it. But this team's different. I will be shocked if they lose. This team's different. This team is just a lot more disciplined and structured to me. We've seen in a lot of years where the Steelers would drop games to these teams that they should be. And I just don't get that feel from them this season. I don't. To me,
I don't either.
I don't get the feel from them this season. With how they've been playing and how their season's gone for the most part, I do not get the feel for them that they're going to have a trap game this year, that they're going to drop a game or two to teams that they should beat. Now, at this point in the season, that's not going to happen because now you're in more of the quote unquote difficult part of your schedule. But throughout the season this year, you didn't really have them dropping games. They've lost 2 games.
I would have said the Cowboys game was a trap game. They had the worst defense at the time. They had so many players out because of injury, and I would say that would have been a trap game. But then again, that's under Justin Fields, not under Russell Wilson. I think one of the reasons why we probably one of the reasons if we don't have any trap games or the only trap game left on the schedule would be the Browns, because the rest of the teams they're going to be tough. And anyways, I think the leadership from Russell Wilson is going to make the difference there when he comes to having those trap games, being the person that can guide this team. Before Russ became QB1, Minka Fitzpatrick or one of these other guys, no, it was Deshaun Elliott, had mentioned that maybe they need to focus more in practice. That is something that we have heard multiple times throughout the last few years about practice and being more motivated, being more disciplined and engaged in practice. We haven't heard that since Russ has taken over. Now, I'm not saying that that's because it's Russ or whatever. And, I think that his leadership is a huge component to why the Pittsburgh Steelers are successful and why their trajectory is where it's at and going in the right direction. I truly think, man, they're not going to have those type of trap games too, because when Russ was good in Seattle, they were winning 13, 14 games a season. They weren't dropping trap games in. No, and I don't think he seems more focused and motivated this year to prove. I mean, he has a lot to prove. He's putting his gold jacket on the line. You know, I think that if he ended up like retiring after Denver, I don't know, maybe I think he needed to play a little bit more. But I think that this would have been this is his chance. If he's going to get that gold jacket, if he's going to be a Hall of Famer and be remembered, he has to do well. If he can be what he was.
Yeah, I think these next 2 to 3 years, 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's gonna, because if it didn't work out for him, let's just say that Justin Fields would have taken the job from him. You know, that gold jacket's slipping away.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I hear
So
you. I just think this team's different, man. I'm just not. That's why I'm not really too concerned about this Browns game. I don't think they're going to blow them out. It's going to be cold. It's going to be as of right now. It's supposed to be rain. Again, it's a division game, and the Browns still have good talent on their defense. Obviously, they are motivated to beat the Steelers, even though they've only won 2 games. Stefanski's playing for his job. So you factor into those things. That's why I don't think it's going to be this large margin of a blowout or anything. I could maybe see the Steelers winning by a touchdown or so. I don't really see this being like a pretty game from them, but this just doesn't really give me too much concern, just given the fact of where they are as a team and how they are compared to previous years. Even some years with Ben, you know, that they've had some lack of structure and a little bit of craziness there, and you'd see them drop a game or two that you would look back at the end of the season and say, how the hell did we lose to the 3-win Chicago Bears and the 4-win New York Jets? You know, that was the reality. That happened almost every year, you know, the Tomlin special. But I just don't really see that this year. I don't. And if it's going to happen, it's probably going to be this game, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think that if obviously this is a game just on a short week and traveling, you know, I don't think the rest of the season they have a team outside of the Browns again that would be considered a trap game.
No,
even
definitely not at all.
Yeah, even though there's the Bengals who aren't playing well offensively, they're doing some great things out there.
Absolutely, they are.
And they're just putting up points like crazy.
Yeah,
I know because Chase is on my fantasy football team.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's insane how much they're scoring, and they've won 4 games.
It's been great.
That's a defense. That's a defensive issue, and that's a coaching problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worked out for me. I've got to see the Bengals lose, and my football team benefit from it.
Yep.
And
Daniel's having a good year in my fantasy league this year. So
even though I just lost one, it's because both of my tight ends were out, man. I didn't have anybody to put in.
What do you say? Anyways,
yeah. I'll bounce back, but going back to this game, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers just need to start off hot. If the Steelers can go in there and put up a couple of points, you know, maybe 2 touchdowns on the first drives and get ahead, then you're going to eliminate the motivation for the Browns.
Yeah.
Right. You keep them hanging around, then that's when I think that it can get a little bit dangerous because they start to build in confidence and things of that nature. I think that if the Pittsburgh Steelers go in there and handle business in the first half, it'll be a smooth sailing game.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I think that this at this point in the season, too, there's a lot on the line in terms of them winning these games. You're right there with Buffalo and Kansas City. So there's a lot on the line in terms of winning games, losing games. I don't see it being like them scoring a lot of points. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But the defense, I see our defense, you know, doing pretty strongly. I could see Jameis getting a couple, you know, a few plays down the field. Browns having a couple good drives or so. Offensively, just be more efficient than you were in Baltimore game. Take advantage of some more of those red zone opportunities. Maybe we'll see Fields maybe once in the red zone. And let's see some more Mike Williams, man. Let's give him some opportunities down the field.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to have a better day? Myles Garrett or TJ Watt?
TJ Watt, 100%.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think TJ does more than just sack the quarterback. I mean,
absolutely does. He drops back coverage. He forces fumbles. You know, he's there's been so many times where he has won ball games and has been such a huge determining factor of how a game's gone. Myles Garrett deserves a lot of respect. He's a great player. He's one of the best defensive players of this current era. And he does a great job as just a regular defensive end. But TJ is a more complete player, and they do play 2 different positions, by the way, but TJ just gives you a lot more than just a pass rush.
That's true. I agree. And yeah, I'm looking forward. I know that Mike Tomlin said in his press conference that Chris Boswell is probably going to be the player of the week for them.
You might be
And
Steelers MVP, man. Team MVP.
he might be, dude. There was this meme going around with
you see so many so many fantasy wide receivers that he has more points than.
Really?
Yeah, he has more fantasy points than like AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore. There's about 8 of them on the list. Yeah,
Not bad.
Pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good year, man. Overall, I think that. I mean, the Browns got rid of Amari Cooper. They got Judy. They have Njoku. They have Winston.
Cedric Tillman's had few good games.
Chubb is back. So they got some pieces.
Yeah, and they still have good talent defensively, man. Their main problem has been their quarterback situation's been a disaster since they traded for Deshaun Watson. I do think that they've kind of squared down on their coaching pretty well the last 4 years. But again, when you're an organization, and I can say this as a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, when you're an organization that just doesn't have structure and can never get things right, even if you have a certain amount of level of talent on your team, and you might have a good year here and then you might have a good year there, but at the end of the day, you're always going to be the dysfunctional organization you are.
True.
You always are. You're not going to escape that. And that's the Browns. They will always be that type of organization. And that's how it is. They might have a good year 3 years from now, but then 5 straight years, they'll be terrible. 10 straight years, they'll be terrible. That's just how they are. They'll pull out a good season every once in a blue moon, but they're always going to be the dysfunctional organization that goes through coaches, that goes through talent, that can't develop talent, that fails at draft picks. That's just how it is, dude. That's how it is for them. That's how they're always going to be.
Yeah. No, I don't. I agree.
And honestly, Daniel, with the Deshaun Watson trade and resetting the whole quarterback market after him, they deserve it.
Yeah,
they deserve
I agree.
100%. They 100% deserve it. What they did to Baker Mayfield, they deserve it. If I was a Browns fan, man, I would just be so pissed. I would be so pissed. You mishandled Baker Mayfield. You actually had good talent on the roster for probably maybe 4 straight years. You've had good personnel at your wide receivers and your running backs. You've had a really structured offensive line for quite a while. And then you sell yourself out for Deshaun Watson, and he's a disaster. He might not even be their quarterback next year. So now the Browns are pretty much back to square one. And if I'm a Browns fan, I'm just pissed. I'm pissed at it, man.
Well, I'm not a Browns fan, and I'm happy.
No, I'm thrilled about it. They deserve it. But just from that perspective, I would just be mortified.
Yeah, well, I wasn't surprised. When they gave Deshaun Watson the contract that they gave him, I was like, this typical Brown.
Oh, I knew it wasn't going to work. They were banking on him to go back to quarterback form 2 years after everything that his last year with the Texans, and now here we are 4 years later, and going into the season, they were still banking on him going back to how he was 4 years ago. It wasn't going to happen.
Mm-mm.
Too much baggage, too much time away from football, too much of his mind and energy into everything else outside of football. It wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to work. But Daniel, give me your score prediction for this game. Give me a prediction offensively and give me a prediction on the defense.
All right. So I think that if the Pittsburgh Steelers go in there and handle the first quarter and first couple of drives the way they should, I think they'll end up, taking control of this game. I think that's going to end up being the case. The Steelers didn't score a lot of points they didn't put any touchdowns on the board this last game. And I think they're going to, rectify that. They're going to go in there with the idea that they need to get in the end zone. They need to hold up their part of the bargain. The defense isn't going to bail them out like that every single week.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I think they're going to win. The Steelers are going to end up winning probably about 27-13.
I'd love to see it, man. I'd be all good. Another thing too, those first 3 games under Russell Wilson, 30 points a game, it's been a beautiful thing. And that's why with the people freaking out, it's like, dude, you got to probably take a Xanax and relax. This is how these Ravens and Steelers games go. It doesn't matter who the damn quarterback is. It's going to be a 3-point game.
Yeah.
And low scoring.
100%.
It doesn't freaking matter. So, no, with that being said, I don't think the Steelers blow the Browns out. I don't think it's going to be like this close game either necessarily. I think it's going to be a tweener in the middle. I could see him winning by 7 to 10 points, maybe 13. But I'm going to go 23. I'm going to go 23-13. I'm going to say they win by 10. We see I'm going to say offensively, we see a little bit more of Mike Williams. I'm going to say, not going to say he gets another touchdown, but I'm going to say we see him from an effective standpoint of maybe getting maybe 4 targets on the field and maybe 50 yards or so. I think that we can see that. I think Najee has a good night. I think Russ, we see just a kind of just better performance from him as well. Maybe we'll see a Justin Fields package. Maybe we'll see a Fields rush touchdown or something like that. Defensively, I think we'll see TJ Watt wreak a little havoc on Jameis Winston. Maybe they'll put in Dorian Thompson-Robinson at the end of the game. And I'm gonna say we pick off Jameis at least once and we cause another turnover. So I think pretty good night from the defense. Not many points given up. Nick Chubb doesn't do a whole lot on the ground. Jameis has maybe a couple big plays down the field, but other than that, pretty contained. Couple turnovers. And win by 10.
Yeah, I think that's very plausible. I think they're going to go for a little bit more points.
I love to see it. I love to see a blowout. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to. I'd love to see freaking from a realistic level, maybe like 33-14. I'd love to see that.
That'd be nice.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, I'd love to see 30 points, man. Just to get back into that. Just because.
Yeah. Get back in that. Get back in that rhythm. Because when you play the Bengals,
you're gonna have to score 30 points.
Bengals know how to score the points, man. Their defense is trash. I think we knew that going into the year. It was going to be a very big liability for them. And we'll talk about that game next week. But the Bengals are also still facing, in my opinion, the number 1 defense in the NFL. Statistically, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Division game, of course, but they're going to have to get an offense rolling to be able to kind of match some of those points given up. And if they would drop a game to the Bengals, honestly, it won't really bother me, man, because the Bengals, even though they have 4 wins, they're still a very they're not a joke, though, if that makes sense. They've won 4 games, but they're not a joke. They've had success 2 out of these last 3 years. They're scoring. They're able to score the football. They just have a bad defense and they have some poor coaching. So if they would drop a game to the Bengals, listen, it's a division game. Of course, like Steelers lose, you get pissed off, but I kind of expect them to drop one of these games, the Bengals, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to go to a point where they're just going to pack it in. I mean, Burrow's hand doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
He's always kind of.
Yeah. And maybe they'll run the table. I don't know. I mean, they could, but you have, I'm just saying, I don't think that's going to happen either. I could see him dropping another couple games. But with that being said, maybe they do win. They only lose maybe 1 division game. You know what I mean? Maybe drop a game to the Eagles or the Chiefs or something like that.
Yeah, man. The Steelers run the table though, and they end up getting that bye week.
Mm.
That's the closest they would be to a championship in a while.
Yeah.
Just being in the divisional game automatically.
Yeah.
And, they would play the worst seeded team in the AFC when they would go into that. I mean, they'd really have a great opportunity to get there.
They definitely would. It's going to be pretty fascinating. Come down the stretch. And especially too, even though that they have, and before we wrap up here, even though that they lead the league with 5 wins over teams with a 500 record, being able to rack a win against the Ravens, the Commanders, and even if you could win one out of those Chiefs and Eagles game, I mean, that should make you feel good.
Yeah. 100%, my man.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate everybody that has tuned in tonight, who has taken the time to tune in. It's good to see all you guys again. Shout out to all you guys. Always good to see everybody in the chat. For those that are new, welcome. We appreciate you guys supporting as well. But it's good to be back with Daniel. Good to have another show here, having Steeler discussion. We'll be back next week talking about the Browns game from this Thursday, and we'll be back next week talking about the game heading into the Bengals week. But other than that, Daniel, you guys can follow him at State of the Steelers. You see his name right there. His name will be in the description of the video, but he is also live on his channel as well. So if you're subscribed there, then you're good to go. If you're not, head over to his channel and give him a subscription. He does a really good job as well, breaking down film. But other than that, Daniel, anything you want to leave us on before we get out of here?
Man, it's an exciting year, guys. It's going to be, I was talking to Dave Schofield at the game, and, the Steelers win a couple more games, and they're in position to win the North. They're going to start selling playoff tickets. Imagine that. I mean, this team for Vegas was predicting, 8 games win? 8 wins?
8.5. That was the 9. That was the line. They win tomorrow. That's already done in week 12.
Yep. So quickly, man.
I don't understand why that there's just continual doubt. I really don't. I really don't. Now, obviously, this team's better than people probably thought originally, but still, even like from the past 4 or 5 years, even though they haven't been like that threat, like they're still winning 9-10 games. You know what I mean? But this is
they hate us because they ain't us.
No, that's it. That's it, man. This is a great team, a fun team. Excited to see how everything finishes out here. This is their best chance. This is their best chance to make a deep playoff run and potentially face whoever from the NFC in the Super Bowl since 2017. This is their best shot. This is their best shot. So excited to see how this plays out, as everybody else is. But with that being said, guys, we will see you guys next week, and we'll see what happens Thursday night. You guys have a good night. We'll see you then.